Hello, it's Randy Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randy Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Based on uniform intelligence assessments, the Russians were responsible for hacking the DNC. It is important for us to review all elements of that and make sure that we are preventing that kind of interference through cyber attacks in the future. I think it is very important for us to distinguish between the politics of the election and the need for us as a country, both from a national security perspective, but also in terms of the integrity of our election system and our democracy, to make sure that we don't create a political football here. Once we had clarity and certainty around what in fact had happened, we publicly announced that, in fact, Russia had hacked into the DNC. And at that time, we did not attribute motives or any interpretations of why they had done so. At a time when anything that was said by me or anybody in the White House would immediately be seen through a partisan lens, I wanted to make sure that everybody understood we were playing this thing straight. But what we were trying to do is let people know that this had taken place. And so if you started seeing effects on the election, if you were trying to measure why this was happening and how you should consume the information that was being leaked, that you might want to take this into account. Part of the goal here was to make sure that we did not do the work of the leakers for them by raising more and more questions about the integrity of the election right before the election was taking place. At a time, by the way, when the president-elect himself was raising questions about the integrity of the election. In early September, when I saw President Putin in China, I felt that the most effective way to ensure that that didn't happen was to talk to him directly and tell him to cut it out. There were going to be some serious consequences if he didn't. And in fact, we did not see further tampering of the election process. But the leaks through WikiLeaks had already occurred. I'm finding it a little curious that everybody's suddenly acting surprised that this looked like it was disadvantaging Hillary Clinton, because you guys wrote about it every day.
Seriously, dude. And you can't talk to people about it because they can't separate the outcome of the election, which is, what the Trump supporters wanted, from the attack on our country that, Russia did. Now, the president, gave this press conference. I'm still waiting for Donald Trump to give his. He said the 15th. He said the 15th. 15th came and went, and there was no press conference. He does, however, stand in front of Christmas trees now. He stands in front of Christmas trees and says, things about himself, about how great he is, about how he won, how, it was like unprecedented, and spells it wrong. And then, how nobody, has ever done what he's done, and he won in a landslide. And, but before we get to, the POTUS, this is an interesting little clip. This is only 33 seconds. This is very interesting. This was Obama in a sit-down with NPR, talking about the attack on our country. Now, if Russia had attacked a aircraft carrier, or if Russia had attacked the homeland, or if Russia had attacked one of our embassies, or if Russia had attacked one of our ambassadors, that would be an act of war, right? Wouldn't it? I don't know. You'd have to tell me, right? But Obama views the attack on the integrity of our election system as something that needs an answer, let's say, retaliation. And so here is, in a 33-second clip, what he told NPR about how he thinks he might retaliate.
There is no doubt that when any foreign government tries to impact the integrity of our elections, that we need to take action, and we will, at a time and place of our own choosing. Some of it may be explicit and publicized, some of it may not be. But Mr. Putin is well aware of my feelings about this because I spoke to him directly about it.
Now that's interesting, okay? Now let's fast forward to today. This man here, if you can't see him, his name is Andre. Was Andre. Yeah, poor Andre. This was poor Andre Karlov. He was the ambassador to Turkey, the Russian ambassador to Turkey. If you're watching this, I must warn you, this is graphic. If you're not watching it, you're going to hear something like gunshots, because that's what it is. He was at an art exhibition today, Andre was, in Ankara, Turkey, which is the capital of Turkey, and he was giving a little speech about art, you know, the art he loves and collects, and apparently, you know, what oligarchs can afford to buy. And then all of a sudden, this happened.
Güvende olmadıkça sizler güvenliği tadamayacaksınız.
Okay, let's stop it there because I don't think very many of us speak Turkish, unless I do have one Turkish listener that I know of, and I'm hoping that he will call and tell us exactly what was being said there. Now, I will tell you that they have identified this man who you can see in this video wearing a suit and a tie. And killing poor Andrei Karlov, the Russian ambassador to Turkey at an art exhibition. But it seems like he was saying, according to people who have done previous translations as best as they could, that he was saying, don't forget Syria, don't forget Aleppo, don't forget Syria, don't forget Aleppo. And you know, the Russians have just trashed the rebel stronghold in East Aleppo. Now, when I say rebel stronghold, what I mean is the people we were arming in order to help them survive their dictator, but al-Assad, Bashar. Now that man is so vanilla looking. Do you know what he looks like? He is so vanilla looking. It's unbelievable. It was like, you look at that dull, useless face he has, and you would not think that he had it in him to kill. You know, the way that Vlad does have it in his face to kill, and those piercing eyes, and the Botoxed forehead, and all that. Not that I'm against. Not that I'm against. Now look at me. I've been crying my eyes out.
I almost did a spit take there.
I've been crying my eyes out for 4 days. I'm crying my eyes out. I can't stop crying. I just look at me. But I just found it an interesting a juxtaposition of events here. I really did. You know, like, here's Obama saying, we will get revenge at a time and a place of our choosing. And some of it you might be able to see, and others of it you may never know about. But something's going to happen to Vlad. Vlad's not going to be happy that he decided to do this crap. Now, of course, what I was hoping is that, Obama would turn off all the lights in Moscow on Christmas Eve. That's what I was hoping, because I just think that's the festive way to say fuck you. Do you know what I mean? And you want that to be festive during this time of year, So I don't know. I have no clue. I feel a little Alex Jonesy. I feel a little conspiratorial here. I feel now, of course, the uber right wing misinformists, the uber right wing, false flag people, the uber right wing conspiracy theorists. They may connect these dots in a very sure way. They may. I'm not so sure, but it is interesting how over the weekend we said, yeah, Russia is going to be really miserable that they did what they did, that they came into our country and hacked us, especially at a time when Donald Trump was inviting them to hack us and when Donald Trump was on TV saying this election is rigged. So Obama said, if I said anything more than what I already said, which is what I said in September, that the Russians hacked the DNC, we know that that's true. Okay, we know that the Russians are providing documents to WikiLeaks. We know the Podesta emails were provided by Cozy Bear and Fuzzy Bear, and and he said over the weekend in this press conference, which was pretty comprehensive. He stood there for an hour and a half answering questions, and he said, when they asked him, "Do you think Putin was personally responsible as has been reported?" He said, nothing happens in Russia without Putin. He's an ex-KGB guy. It's not exactly democracy over there. Nothing happens without Vlad. So the answer was yes. And then he said, at a time and a place of our choosing, we will get even with Russia. And you might see something and you might not. And all of a sudden, at an art exhibit today, at a little gallery there, an off-duty police officer. That's who the guy in the suit is. He's an off-duty police officer in Turkey, in Ankara, in the capital. Apparently, he did, riot police work. He was an off-duty riot police officer. And, he was right there and standing over poor Andre and just, said, time to die, and killed him. And started screaming about Syria and Aleppo and don't forget what you did there. And it's, and then all of a sudden today also, there's been a horrific repeat of Nice, France with the, remember Nice, France, a truck drove down the street and just barreled into people and just killed people. And same thing just happened just now in Germany and in Berlin. You had 50 hurt so far. They're reporting 9 people dead. It was on, they're calling it Christmas Square. It's Breitscheidplatz. That's the name of the street. Platz is a street. I know it doesn't translate, right? But it's their town square, their Christmas square, and somebody in a truck. And it turns out, it looks like from the tweeting that's going on by Reuters. See, this is where I go when I want breaking news. You go to the real people on the ground, and you go to international news groups like Reuters. They're saying that there were 2 people involved, that one has already been subdued, which means he's dead, and that they've just arrested the truck driver. And I guess we'll get updates, as the interrogation of the truck driver progresses. But, obviously this is a result of Russia teaming up with Bashar al-Assad in Syria and just massively murdering. Now, so for people who think, that what was really interesting and disgusting at the same time in Obama's press conference over the weekend, or, I think it was Friday, we were off, because I was crying my eyes out. I was crying my eyes out. And Obama was he was just he was saying things like, look, I still got a few moments here. I still got it was just so fascinating, this whole thing. But I don't know, the whole thing with Syria, the whole thing with, he was saying why that he had looked at some polling. And the polling showed that 37% of Republicans support and approve of Vladimir Putin. 37% of American Republican voters support Vladimir Putin, who is a murderer. You look at Aleppo. Hello, Vlad. Do you know, it's like it's amazing. It's stunning to me. You look at journalists that have been killed there, murdered there because they report the truth. You look at polonium, and you look at this one guy who was like a really successful oil man. I mean, like super successful, and he was running his oil business in between Vlad becoming president and Yeltsin, and in that period of time, the guy started his oil company and started drilling for oil, and as soon as Vlad came in, he said, "Oh no head shall be high." And not only did he kill this guy, not only did he imprison this guy, okay, he didn't kill him, he imprisoned this guy on trumped up charges, but he actually bought his gas company, his oil company, from him after he was imprisoned for $29. For $29. And people in this country support Vladimir Putin. 37% of Trump voters support Vladimir Putin, a KGB thug murderer who just wiped out an entire country. An entire country. And you think there's going to be no fallout? Well, look, here in Turkey, a man lies dead on an art gallery floor. The ambassador to Turkey from Russia, the Russian guy, Andrei Karlov, and somebody got into a truck and just plowed people down in Germany in Christmas Square the week before Christmas. And I'm sure it had something to do with Syria, although we're not sure yet. Do you know what I'm saying? Either that or Obama is like he's Shaft, man. Can you dig it? Oh, man. I don't know what happened in Turkey. I don't know. And I don't want to name my friend because God only knows. It's not so easy over there anymore. Like when we were there, it was perfectly fine. Things change on a dime. And I used to have friends that were from Damascus and they were here, but they had to go back because their visas expired. And I'm wondering if they're still alive. Freaking Vlad.
Clear for takeoff. Randy Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandyRhodes.com.
Go to RandyRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.